Happy October. I have to tell you, Major League Baseball's decision to expand the playoffs and have 8 different games going simultaneously yesterday was absolutely brilliant. I mean, it felt like the NCAA tournament of baseball. And I'm not just saying that because I went and took my fourth grader out of school at 11 a.m. Central to be able to watch a Braves-Reds game that felt like it lasted forever. I mean, it was an unbelievable, epic, edge of your seat, even though nothing is actually happening, game. One of the wildest baseball games I have ever seen. The Braves won 1-0 in the 13th inning. For those of you who were listening yesterday, I put up a poll asking whether or not I should take my fourth grader who has watched every Braves game this year. He's turned into a huge Major League Baseball fan, whether I should pull him out of school or not. I went to school, took him out, and we sat down on the couch and watched what was almost a 5-hour baseball game together all throughout the day. There were games going on all night, every direction you could turn. I just think it's absolutely brilliant. And I know it's become trendy to be like, oh, baseball stinks. Oh, what in the world's baseball doing? This, to me, is just brilliant, going with a 16-team postseason. I think they need to do this every year. I think they have stumbled into brilliance. They have taken the challenges of the coronavirus and having a 60-game season and all the stupidity that it looked like over the months when the players and the owners were arguing back and forth. And I think they have ended up with a situation that makes complete sense. Now, we're going to get into some of those games that were going on. The Lakers also won. There was absolutely no drama. We'll talk a little bit about that. NFL Week 4 action is back. The Titans game has been postponed on Sunday. Looks like it's going to be played on Monday or Tuesday. I'm not sure if they've officially announced which of those days. We'll talk some about that as well. But to me, the storyline here is how brilliant baseball is, how cool it was to have all those 8 games going all day, NCAA tournament style. And for those of you waking up this morning in Minnesota, we talked some about this yesterday, but I don't even know how it's possible to lose 18 straight baseball games in the postseason. To me, this is a monumentally unbelievable story. And Sean Pendergrast, who is a good radio guy down in Houston, he tweeted me. He said, I've crunched the numbers. If you had started with $100 and faded the Twins every playoff game, rolling your money over starting back in 2004 when this streak began, you'd have won $2,613,509. Let me repeat that. If you had just bet against the Twins on the money line for 18 straight games and you had kept rolling your money on these games, you would now have $2,613,509 if you had started with $100 bet against the Twins on the money line. This is one of the most improbable strings of futility that I have ever seen anywhere in sports. 18 straight is flat out unheard of. I mean, it's hard in baseball for the worst team every year to even come close to losing 10 in a row because baseball is just, there's not that much that differentiates. And usually even the bad team has at least one good starting pitcher at some point in time. And the fact that you would be unable to win for 18 straight games is one of the most remarkable things I've ever seen. I mean, it really is from a statistical perspective. And we're talking about a team that is good enough to get into the postseason, which means they definitely have 2 or 3 decent pitchers, 2 or 3 decent hitters. It's one of the most unbelievable things I've ever seen in sports. So if you're waking up this morning in Minnesota, I'm sorry. I don't even know how it's possible. But I bet there's a lot of our listeners who have watched all 18 of those games, and they're just sitting staring at the ceiling saying, I don't even understand how this is possible. Statistically, it shouldn't be. I don't know. You guys need like a seance. You need to bring in somebody to conduct some sort of shamanic ritual to try and end whatever curse exists on the Twins. There needs to be some sort of exorcism performed. I'm not sure what the answer is, but I'd be looking for whatever it might be to get the Twins back to being able to play postseason baseball and win a game. But the Braves get the win. A bunch of other outcomes. I'll run through them right here. You just heard Eddie talking about them. But the Braves 13-inning game was amazing. The Marlins are an incredible story. You talk about their trajectory from everyone ridiculing the Marlins because they tested positive for COVID. They seem like they might get baseball shut down. They fight back. Not only do they make the postseason, but they go on the road in Wrigley Field and take the command of Game 1, and they now have 2 chances to eliminate the Cubs in the next couple of days. The Astros, as we were mentioning earlier, I was talking about how unbelievable the Twins' failure is. The Astros go up to Minnesota, win 2, and they are advancing now into the bubble. And the story of the Astros being cheaters is obviously going to come back up in a bigger degree now. The A's fought back. The A's have had a star-crossed postseason. Billy Beane has gotten them into the postseason a lot, but they've never really been able to win there. They came back and won Game 2 to avoid being eliminated by the White Sox. The Rays took care of the Blue Jays pretty easily. The Rays, great story in terms of what they've been able to do, building a contender without having any real fan support to speak of. Cardinals took down the Padres on the road, and we already know about the Yankees. And then the Dodgers found a way to get the win over the Brewers, so they're in a commanding spot there. So I think you have a bunch of different highlights you can play, Danny G, for people who might have missed what was the NCAA tournament, Major League Baseball style yesterday. I've got the list here. Let's first hear, I'm sorry, Reds fans, let's first hear Freddie Freeman. By the way, why are you pitching to the MVP in the bottom of the 13th inning when you could walk him, put him on base, and all that matters is 1 run, right? It's not like you're trying to avoid giving up a lot of runs. Why are you giving the potential MVP of the National League in the bottom of the 13th inning an opportunity to beat you? Yes, he got a hit, but all he needed to do was really get the ball in the air. This is Freddie Freeman. And it's crazy to me that the Reds decided to pitch to him. Here is what that hit sounded like.
1-2 on Freddie Freeman. A base hit wins it. Pache a lead at third, and the pitch on the way. Swung on, driven out to center field, and the Braves take Game 1. And Freddie Freeman breaks hearts in Cincinnati and scores Pache. And in 13 innings, the Braves take down the Reds 1-0.
I don't know why you pitched to him. You made that decision. You reaped what you sowed there. The Yankees get a win to, like I said, advance into the second round of the postseason. It starts with a DJ LeMahieu RBI double, and then we have the final call as well. Here's what that sounded like.
Breaking ball is grounded up the middle. Base hit. Center field. Urshela coming home. He will score. It's a 0-2 base hit by LeMahieu to center field. And the Yankees take a 10-9 lead. Chapman deals. Half swing. Struck him out swinging. Ball game over. And the wild card series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win. They win the game 10-9. They win the wild card series. Then they move on to San Diego for the division series against Tampa Bay.
Now, the Dodgers also got a win late night. I mean, there were games going on all day. If you missed it, the Dodgers, who continue to not respond to us and have evidently burned our cardboard cutouts, they got a win to go get 1 game away from advancing into the final 8 of Major League Baseball. Here is what it sounded like when Corey Seager went yard.
The 2-2, fly ball, center field. Well hit, on his way, it's got a chance, and it's gone, a home run. Corey Seager has given the Dodgers a huge insurance run. It's 4-2. Jansen set, the pitch to Yelich. Swung on and missed, strike 3, and the Dodgers hang on and beat the Milwaukee Brewers 4-2 and take a 1-0 lead in the best of 3 in the wild card series.
Okay, so that is where we are. I'm going to bring in the crew. We got a loaded program for you as we start off October. I want to thank you guys for helping us set an all-time record for downloads again in September. We have been on an absolute tear. Millions of you continue to download our podcast. The growth rate is through the charts. If you haven't already signed up, go do it. Thank you so much for all the support you gave us in September. Look forward to having an awesome October with all of you out there. Danny G, are you with me that baseball certainly makes a lot of mistakes, but that this 8-game, basically a one-day event felt amazing starting at 12 Eastern? And what do you think about my bravery to make the decision even after my wife called into the show yesterday and let me have it? I still went and got the kid out of school.
Yeah, props to you for making that happen. So how did it play out exactly? Because if you missed yesterday's show, Clay's wife Laura called in at the very close of our Wednesday program. So did you have another conversation with her after the radio show, or did you just go get your kid?
I just went and got him.
Nice.
And then she came home and saw that
she
we
knew,
were,
right? She knew.
I think she knew that was going to happen after the phone call. But that for those of you who don't know, weren't listening yesterday, one of the challenges I would say in general about baseball playing 8 games is if you have a kid, and my 4th grader is a huge Braves fan, watched every game, 60 game this year, watched every game that he could last year. We went down and stayed in the hotel. He couldn't go to games this year, watched it. And one of the challenges is, much like with the NCAA tournament, you can have a favorite team and they can play while you're still in school. And so the Braves have a noon Eastern start both today and tomorrow. Now, I'm not going to do it for both games now that the Braves won this one. So I told him I would DVR this one, and then if they have a game 3, I'll get him out for game 3. But we're going to try to watch this game on DVR. I told him to not be aware of what the score was, and he could come home and he could watch it fresh. But I just thought, man, this was such a cool idea for baseball to have games going all day like this, to have the stakes be so high, which is why I compare it to the NCAA tournament. It's not a one-game situation, but to have to win 2 out of 3, if you lose game 1, it certainly feels like almost a death sentence, even though it isn't. And the pressure when it's a close game is just, it's unbelievable.
No, you're right. It was a beautiful thing yesterday to kick my feet up and watch baseball in the daytime in Los Angeles all day long, waiting for the Dodgers game to start. Already, postseason baseball is an amazing thing. Our whole lives, it has always felt different because you hang on every pitch.
That's right.
And every at-bat, every pitcher you bring in, everything is so important. But for it to be 3 games in a set, potentially, you're right. That makes it that much more exciting.
Do you think baseball stumbled into this? I mean, even though it took them a long time to get rolling and there was a lot of difficulty associated with it, It feels like baseball has stumbled into a postseason that could be wildly popular in, obviously, an abnormal season.
The only thing I wonder about moving forward is if you are a number 1 seed, does it make sense for you to have to play a wild card game?
I think that's a challenge, but it's an interesting question, and maybe the answer is you don't do 2 out of 3. Maybe you go ahead and do 3 out of 5. To make every individual game matter a little bit less. I don't know the answer to that, but I do think that's pretty intriguing.
And by the way, it was nice seeing your son Lincoln come on FS1 yesterday.
Yes,
to rub it in. Who was it? Was it Furman that bet against the Braves?
Todd Furman not only bet against the Braves, he called out my 4th grader on the television program that we do and said, "Oh, your son's going to be wearing it. The Reds are going to take him out." And so last night or yesterday afternoon, my 4th grader came on the show and did the tomahawk chop for Furman.
Yeah, and it's funny. They were like, follow through on that backswing on his chop because he was getting you in the face. That was really cool to see that. 34 strikeouts in your game, by the way. The Braves struck out 21 times and still were able...
The pitching was unbelievable.
Yeah, and still were able to have that amazing walk-off.
Yeah, sometimes you are not able to make plays on the offensive side, and it's as much your futility as it is the pitching. The Reds' pitching was unbelievable. I mean, it's the longest game with no runs scored in Major League Baseball postseason history. So, I mean, you're talking about bottom of the 13th before you finally get a run across the plate. And there are all sorts of crazy plays. If you're a Reds fan, you're sitting back and saying, my God, we had so many opportunities, left so many base runners on. Heck, we got a guy caught in a double rundown, and he got tagged out trying to go to home. I mean, when have you ever seen that happen with the diving third baseman to tag somebody out? You got somebody thrown out trying to go from first to third on a base hit to left. I mean, there's a lot of things you go back and watch, and you think to yourself, there's no way that we should be in this position. But the Braves found a way to win, and they can win their first postseason series since, I think, 2001 if they win either today or tomorrow. What about the rest of you? Dub, what did you think about this series in general and bringing out the 8 different baseball games?
I mean, the 8 different games is unbelievable. You're right. It feels exactly like March Madness. The Braves get it done. How about the Marlins? I mean, pretty unreal story. I'm not going to go ahead and give Derek Jeter the okay, you fixed everything, because yes, they made the playoffs, but they somehow have a minus 40 run differential still, which is pretty amazing in and of itself. But remember 3 weeks ago, we talked about how that was maybe the greatest week in sports history with everything going on and the U.S. Open in golf.
Yes.
Well, this weekend might be a very close second. There's no major in golf, but we got a full slate of SEC football this Saturday. NFL's in full swing. We got 8 baseball games a day for a couple of days. NBA finals going on. This may be given 3 weeks ago a run for its money as far as best week in sports history.
It's up there. I mean, it really, really is wild to think about how many different cool options there are from a viewing perspective right now. And we talked about this, to be fair, back in March and April and May when there were no sports going on and we were doing a 3-hour show. I would say, hey, hold on, because September and October has the potential to be the greatest sports calendar that you have ever seen. And I think we're there. I mean, the fact that you can watch Major League Baseball playoffs, the NBA, the NHL just ended. So at the end of September, you had all those going on. You've still got the November Masters coming up. I don't even know exactly what's going on with golf. I know they're playing if you're a big golf fan. The NFL, college football. I mean, this is an absolute cornucopia. It's like a Thanksgiving buffet for sports fans. Eddie, what did you think about the what I would call the NCAA tournament meets Major League Baseball?
Yeah, the baseball palooza is a lot of fun. It is interesting, the contrast in a normal year for baseball. I'm so uninvested in the regular season because there's so many games.
That's right.
And you're just like, well, if I could miss weeks of action.
Yes.
Who cares? But postseason baseball, as you guys have said, you're invested in every pitch, not just every game, and especially when it's best of 3. So, no, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this. I think baseball's definitely going to, as you said, they've stumbled into something they're definitely going to keep going forward as far as the number of teams that get in. The only thing that's a little bit disappointing is we only have one, as far as the American League, only one deciding Game 3 coming up. The rest are all over in 2. We'll see if maybe the National League we have a couple of those. But, yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, you can't really control that. And I wonder if instead of having, they had 4 AL games, then they had 8, they kind of stretched it out a little bit. I don't know. Does it make sense to have 2 back-to-back days so it really feels like the NCAA tournament where you go 8 and 8? Does that make sense? So like the NCAA tournament, what most people I would say about the NCAA tournament is it peaks at the beginning, right? And what I mean by that is if you asked your average college basketball fan, hey, you can watch the opening Thursday, Friday of the NCAA tournament, or you can watch the Final Four. Most people, I think, would say, hey, I'd rather watch the opening Thursday, Friday, because there's way more chaos, there's way more games, it's far more exciting. The sport itself of the NCAA tournament, I believe, peaks on the opening weekend, that Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, as opposed to Final Four weekend, that Saturday, Monday, when you have the 2 semifinal games and then the championship. And there aren't a lot of sports you can point to and say that. I think you could start to say that about Major League Baseball, and I wonder if they just start to create their own sort of sports. What am I thinking of? The sports situation where it's going every single year, tradition, where you have 8 games on a Thursday, 8 games on a Friday, and everybody starts to make that a part of their sports calendar. They've got that tradition set up, much like the NCAA tournament does, when a lot of people call in sick, when a lot of people decide, hey, I'm not going to be at work today. Could Major League Baseball cut through some of the noise and start to create its own event, create that tradition? I kind of think they could, which would be great for Major League Baseball. What about you, Roberto? Did you love it?
Oh, yeah. The only thing I didn't like was, you got a team like Milwaukee and Houston getting into the playoffs with losing records. But as somebody who loves baseball, it was fun to watch. It kind of minimizes the regular season in a way, but it's all right. It's fun to watch. And then the problem, you can't, for the teams that win the teams that are the number one seed, well, they got to play. It's not like you can, have a bye because baseball, you have to have continuity. You got to see live pitching. But I loved it. And now you got the cheating Astros will now go to Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, how wild is that?
And play the White Sox or the A's. And if the White Sox win, they'll be in the Dodgers locker room. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, all this is pretty crazy.
Yeah, thank you, Twins.
The Astros were kind of good job, Twins. Way to lose 18 in a row. The Astros were kind of, I thought, going to be able to slink away and not have to worry about the details associated with their cheating. And now they're going to be right back on front and center in the national stage. And there aren't going to be fans in California, but there would actually be fans present, it sounds like, in Texas, where they would really have to wear, I think, some of the social distaste that they created, some of the hate. All right, so we'll continue to talk about all this as we move through a lot of different stories we talk about already. This is an absolute cornucopia of sporting excess. We're going to be joined by Frank Isola next.